Welcome to the Raw and Real of Real Estate podcast, powered by LPT Realty, Real Estate Reimagined, with your host, the one and only Betsy Tinnervin. On this podcast, we bring you people who share their personal journeys in life, business, and of course, real estate. Get motivated, inspired, and priceless information from entrepreneurs, community leaders, and realtors who are thriving. Now let's get raw and real. Here's Betsy.
Welcome to LPT All-Star Realty Radio Show. I am your host, Betsy Tinnervin with the Tampa Bay Investments team, and I have some amazing guests with me today. Again, I know the last show we talked about relationships and all things the raw and real of real estate, but today we're going to get a deep dive into investing from an investor standpoint, investment, real estate, selling, buying, and all the above from an agent standpoint, and then the perspective from our one and only Brenda, who is also a licensed GC and an LPT realtor. Now, Miss Brenda, you have to say your full name because I know that I'm going to tobacco your last name.
It's easier than it sounds. It's Brenda Ayala.
Well, you're way cooler than me.
Yeah, you know.
So you just switched your license over to LPT, so you are a licensed realtor.
I am indeed. I've been waiting on this opportunity for about 20 years.
But what else are you?
So I have been an investor since about 2000, probably. I was here for the train wreck of 2008 and 9 and lived to tell about it for sure. I was a licensed mortgage broker for the longest. I'm excited to say that I'm a general contractor in the state of Florida, which has some of the toughest licensing laws for GCs. I graduated from Cooley Law School in 2016 and grandmother of 7 beautiful babies. So life is good.
You are like phenomenal.
Thank you.
And everything you do is very, 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 it's done 110%.
I try hard.
You're killing it.
A lot of balls in the air, though. You know, you have to be really organized in your thinking and your day, or you fall behind and nobody ever hears from you again.
But we love the guys that we're going to introduce. But I mean, you are an amazing woman, and you should take all the credit for that.
Thank you. I've worked hard. It is, it's funny because I love the guys too. I just think we have to do a little bit more to be in that same playground sometimes. So I'm glad that I'm here.
Also, I want to tell this story because last week we talked about networking, relationships, et cetera, of how you and I met.
So we met on a job that wasn't going very well about probably 10 or 12 years ago with also an investor. And one of the things that's consistently going to plague a job is not having the right subs on your jobs, and not vetting that process out thoroughly will waste a lot of time in the end. And in the short term, you might get some people to come to work for you, but you're going to pay for it later. So I want to definitely deep dive into that a little bit later as well.
For sure. So you and I met on the job, and I was coming in as the project manager for the investor, and then you were managing all the subs and doing all the GC good stuff, pulling permits, et cetera. And what was cool is this whole time later, now I use you as the GC on my jobs.
You do.
And also now you're with LPT. So I think that for anyone out there listening that is an entrepreneur, I feel like people look at competition the wrong way. Instead of being a catalyst and a connector, they look at people as competitors. And now we not only play in the construction space together, we play in the investment space together, and now the real estate space together.
And what other spaces are there to play in together? I mean, who knows what the future is going to hold, right? But I do think, to your point, relationships are everything. And you really have to see, what's the net? What am I bringing to the table that might dovetail a little bit into what somebody else is doing, as opposed to looking at it competitively. And I think that's where the win is.
I do too. And I am so excited to have Mr. Bryce Bush with us today. And he is a local investor in the community.
Yes, I am.
So I love watching you on Facebook because, and I told you when I kind of set up this show that you and Brenda would just totally vibe and jive because you are so involved in like the community. You've done a lot of stuff in like church work and ministry as well. So who are you and what are you doing?
Well, I got into the business renovating a house for my church to get extra water for lights and water. And that's how I transitioned into real estate. And after that, I went to Fortune Builders Inner Circle as a commercial academy student, learning how to find, analyze, and syndicate commercial transactions. Ended up closing quite a few apartments, hotels, and then got more into the like private money lending, legal, securities, mergers, upreats, just phenomenal, creative, just like amazing high level things.
So basically, literally your entire real estate venture started with you flipping a home for your church.
Yes.
How did that flip work out?
Well, it was phenomenal as a tax write-off until $50,000 worth of tools got stolen.
That is definitely something that our friend Brenda here is going to go through when we go through the process of flipping and all the above. But how did it work out, like overall, Bryce, just with one, you were really donating your time and it was going to a fabulous cause. And two, now that one house flip that was really you volunteering has turned into you doing apartment syndications.
Yes, indeed. It's phenomenal. I have no words to even describe it because all I could remember was just a vague, like, do you still trust me? And I'm like, yes, like this is just the world, everything will get better. And with that good faith, it pushed me forward to get into apartments and dealing at a very high level.
So do you have a favorite deal that you've done?
Yes, actually, a 158 unit deal I'm working on now is it between that one and a deal with a very high gentleman from China, which that's I think all I can say about it. But between the two of those are my two favorite deals.
Okay, sweet. I'm so glad that I have you here. And Mr. Sean.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, B?
Good. So Sean has the pleasure of dealing with me on a daily basis, with which Brenda and Bryce get a few emails or texts every now and then, but Sean gets 1,000. Sean Weatherington is always so humble and great, so I'm definitely going to throw this out there that Sean Weatherington sells investments. He represents buyers, sellers, and investors, and he actually has a real estate degree. So Sean, what are you doing? How can you help people?
Well, I actually I dabble a little bit on both sides of the table here. It's nice to meet the two of them and how they've come to the table with experience in contracting and experience in investing. I've done both of those as well. But I have a genuine passion for the real estate industry as a whole. As you know, as Betsy just said, I do have a degree in real estate, and I've been always looking for a way to apply that. And, one individual segment never really interested me. But when you put all the items together as a whole, especially in the investing space, that's what really kind of drives me to the next level. So I'm fortunate enough to work with, some major players in the game, Betsy being one of them. And we operate a team here in Tampa Bay, Miami, and soon to be in the Orlando markets as well.
And you're loving LPT.
Oh, loving LPT. The tools are phenomenal and the people's even better.
So I'm so glad to have everyone here. I would love to kick off before we go to commercial break, a conversation, Brenda, just very general on what is the importance of a GC, because a lot of people listening today, they want to talk about investments. Maybe they want to wholesale, flip, buy and hold. Obviously, there gets to a point where you need a GC.
You're right about that. My dad said something my entire life that is just what I live my life by. He said, why is there never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it over? And if you think about that as it relates to any investment opportunity or any job that you are doing, this is what we're going to talk about today. Because if I can give you any little morsel of wisdom, any nugget that will save your money, save your time, keep your mind at peace, it would be to get yourself organized on the front end, because that's when you're really going to make your money on your investment property, whatever it is. If you're going back, doubling down, doing things over and over again, you've specifically whacked out your bottom line. So
if I was a new investor, when would I know if I needed a GC?
When you ask the question, I mean, you're not going to know that as a new investor. I mean, most people don't know that any job that's over $1,500, simple, painting the interior of a very tiny house requires a GC permit in the state of Florida.
And then that permit gets pulled by you.
Yes, I do.
And what's the name of your construction company?
So my company is New Heights Construction. I've been in business since 2006. I'm a state licensed certified building contractor, and I can work in any county.
Okay. So basically, anyone out there listening, if you have a job that's over $1,500, You are technically supposed to be pulling permits. And like Brenda said, you can contact her. How would someone get a hold of you, Miss Brenda?
Just give me a buzz or text me. Actually, that would be preferred at 813-405-7922.
And so if you are starting a project at home or investing, etc., you definitely want to contact Brenda and get that first permit pulled. And then basically that is the general building permit, correct?
Yes. And in the state of Florida, if you have a standalone, like say you're just doing electrical something or you just need a plumber to fix something, that's fine. But the minute that you need structural elements or walls or you're doing drywall framing, any of those things that are not affected specifically by a trade, that's when you would call me in and those people would work under me.
Perfect. Sean Weatherington, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they contact you?
Best way to call me would be directly at my cell phone at 386-848-7241.
And Mr. Bryce Bush, I'm going to get it right the rest of the show today. How would we contact you if we wanted to know about apartment syndication, investing, etc.?
Via text at 727-251-9571.
And for everyone out there listening, do not forget to download the iHeartRadio app for free. You can listen while you're doing laundry, while you're in class, not paying attention to the teacher, or if you're at the gym, you can pop in those earbuds and listen to all things real estate on our radio show. And today we're going to dive deeper into investing, more construction stuff, and give you all the good tips and tricks. We're about to go to commercial break, and we'll see you when we get back.
The best comp plans ever and stock and revenue share, but if we're not closing real estate transactions, all of that is worthless, because ultimately everything starts with a real estate transaction, which starts with a consumer. And so we wanted to arm our agents with the absolute best technology and best marketing tools to do more real estate. And that's, again, I think a big differentiator. I think very few brokerages really sit down and say, how do we provide tools to make sure that our agents can be more productive, sell more real estate, win more listings, win at more listing appointments, help more buyers find that home. And we're very focused on that. And so while we have the best comp plans and the best ways for agents to generate wealth and earn, we also have the best tools, and more importantly, I would say have the best tools to help you be successful in real estate.
Welcome back to the LPT Realty Radio Show. I am Betsy Tinervin with Tampa Bay Investments, and I am your host today. We have three amazing people. We have Bryce Bush, who is an investor, does a whole bunch of great things in our community. We have Sean Weatherington, who is a licensed realtor specializing in investments, multifamily, residential, etc. He is with Tampa Bay Investments, and he does fabulous things when it comes to new investors, seasoned investors, etc. And then I have Miss Brenda. Brenda, say your last name.
Hello. Ayala.
Ayala. And she is fabulous. She is also a local realtor specializing in investment. She's also a licensed general contractor. She is also a lawyer. So she has a whole eclectic situation that she can help you with all of your real estate needs. And then outside of your real estate needs with actually being a contractor and knowing some legal background. So we're back. We've talked a little bit about what you need to do to pull a permit and why that is important, and that you can contact Brenda at New Heights Construction. And I will throw her number out there several times later in the show for getting all of those things done. So I want to ask you, Sean.
Yes, ma'am.
You deal with investors like Bryce and then obviously realtors like Miss Brenda, but right now we're using her as a GC. So you deal with the GCs and the investors, and you kind of watch the whole investment properties that you buy are like a book, like a blank canvas. And then we put a bunch of paint on it, and then we put it on the shelf to be sold. Mm-hmm. So what do you see the struggles are with these investors and doing these flips or potentially even renovating to put tenants in them? Like, what do you see the problems?
I think the struggle for most investors right now is trying to comb through all the minutia that's out there in the marketplace right now. They also try to tackle it on their own, thinking that they're the experts in the industry and they're the experts in these fields. And as you know, we've talked about construction issues, we've talked about legal issues, we've talked about private money issues. There's just a lot of components in the investing space. And where I feel that I can relate is I've kind of done both sides of this spectrum. I actually enjoy, renovating a house and bringing it to market because of all the positive things that you touch and all the positive people that you touch along the way. That's my why, if you were to ask me that. But, a lot of first-time investors and even a lot of seasoned investors, it's difficult for them to find that diamond in the rough because they have to carve through all the things all the inaccuracies in the MLS or in the OMs and things like that, and really kind of dialing down to what makes sense for them. Some people focus on cash flow, some people focus on return, some people focus on appreciation and buy and hold strategies. It varies according to investors. So, I think that the initial challenge, like I said, is just carving through the minutia and deciding how this fits in their portfolio.
And also, not every deal is a deal for different people.
Correct.
And I think that that's something that you're really good at. So can you just talk a little bit about what I mean by I could have the same piece of property or the same apartment building. It may work perfect for Bryce and not for Brenda and vice versa. Why is that?
Well, that's the thing that we do on our team is we do a lot of listening. We ask our clients what exactly they're looking for. We understand the pain points of real estate investing, but we identify each client based upon their want and their need, and then we listen. We write things down. We are constantly scouring the market for deals that fit what they're looking for, but we don't call them every single day and peddle real estate. I tell them that, quote unquote, I'm not a peddler of real estate. I'm here to identify what your wants and needs are. I know what my limitations are. When we do search for properties all day, all night. And when we do find them, I'm going to call you. And when I call you, you're going to be prepared to buy. And that's how we get deals done. And we actually, deliver at a much higher level to our clientele because we listen to what they're looking for.
I also think that something I wanted to talk about with everyone is how I think that real estate is the sexiest asset in America.
Same.
And one of the reasons why is just because you literally create your own asset, right? So right now everyone's freaking out because gas is costing more and all these things in the world and pricing is going up. But in reality, like you have no control over the stock market. You have no control over Bitcoin. You have no control over all these things. You do have control over your real estate portfolio. You have created your own asset. And so I think what's cool, and this is where I'll kind of roll out a little bit with Bryce and Sean, is just that, really in reality, you have a multitude of streams of income, I guess, when it comes to real estate. So you can have passive income versus necessarily more like a trader income where you're doing that fix and flip. And so what are your thoughts on that, Bryce? Like when it comes to raising capital and buying assets, and what is your personal preference and why?
So I think primarily we focus on development just because when you have the entry into a transaction, everyone has their different pain points. So some individuals wants the return on investment. Some people want the depreciation. Some people like us, we want to see the lower barrier to entry with the material costs and labor costs that we can get, and then the forced appreciation through the equity build after the completion of the project. So higher returns, less risk because we're keeping them minimal.
Did you play with Lincoln Logs as a kid?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
And
so now you're just playing with Lincoln Logs as an adult.
Exactly.
Same game.
Exactly.
Same game. So now that's cool. You're a developer, you're a builder. So we started with Sean. We asked about some struggles. Sean talked about this and that as far as what you do on the analysis side. You're saying as an investor, Bryce, you like to develop. Now let's talk about the Lincoln Logs, Brenda.
Ooh, girl. So
Lincoln Logs are expensive right now.
Oh, pretty pricey.
What is the
I'm a
cost?
Legos guy myself,
They're 30% higher than they were in January. At least in the Central Florida area, 30 to 32% higher material cost than in January. So play that out, right? If you started a project, you bought it, you sunk your teeth in sometime in January, you're just now kind of getting around to where you got your plans together, you found your team, you go in there and you're like, let's do this thing. And we've had a number since maybe February or so. Those numbers no longer apply, and there's no getting around that. And this is why it's so important. I have to go back to something you said earlier when you were talking about when you're initially investing, you have to know what you're looking for first, right? A lot of people make huge mistakes in our industry by not knowing, and they get so excited and they're ready to be an investor and they're looking at this and looking at that, and they haven't drilled down their focus to the extent that they get to be really good at that type of project. That dovetails into what you said about Lincoln Logs. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Mm-hmm. So if you compare what you love and have passion for with really getting focused on what you want and need to buy based on your level of experience, your cash, whatever that might be, then you're going to be in a good place to be a good investor. But you're also going to have the ability to move quick.
And refocus your energy. Like if something changes, you got to be able to react quickly.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's phenomenal.
I think that's kind of where you can map things out, but you have to adapt to change, right? So with any of these projects, there's a lot of like variables right now with the whole cost of materials, etc. What we're suggesting for investors to do is you always have that miscellaneous category in your development project, maybe for each different electrical, plumbing, HVAC, whatever. You should have some padding there, but we're also analyzing on a very conservative level. So we're looking at, Airbnbs, and we're doing that analysis at 50%. Even though in Florida it's 70 to 80, we're looking at rehab budgets going, well, if we think it's 75, it's 85.
That's right.
And the other thing that I kind of think that we should touch on before we go on break is just that if you do get a sub, right, Bryce and Brenda, or a contractor that gives you a quote, you better sign on the dotted line.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And
Now.
then watch that contract, because if you don't make sure you have things like no change orders besides with my approval, and I'll back charge you if you go over XYZ date, then you'll have people dragging you along, not finishing the project, not caring about you.
Well, here's the other part of that, though, that you can do to protect yourself. You write it in the same way from the other side. Notwithstanding acts of God, hurricanes, whatever, if you say that you need 90 days to finish this job and we're on $120, then now I'm taking money away effectively from your bottom line for the longer that job goes. And you have to be prepared to have that conversation. It's a difficult one to have, but when is the last time you ever did a construction job and it finished on time? Ever. In the history of mankind. It just doesn't work that way.
Me and you, Brenda, we finish everything.
You know it, sister.
No
But
one's
there are
divine.
things
I was going to
that
say, when I
can't
do it
anticipate.
myself.
Yeah, when you do it. But that's the only thing that you can control is when you do it, you know exactly when that's going to end. But, other jobs get in trouble. There's a weather contingency you have to plan for. There are subs that get COVID. I mean, people have been out for months on end due to illness. There are some things that are not within our control.
100%. And I think that if you took anything away from this segment, it is definitely that you can do a multifacets of different things in the investment space. You need to have proper documentation and contracts in place, and then collaborate within as an investor, a GC, and a realtor to make sure that if you acquire debt to purchase an asset, that it actually becomes an asset, not a liability. Right. And so if someone wants to get a hold of you, Bryce Bush, where would they call?
727-251-9571, and they would text it.
And Sean?
386-848-7241.
And Brenda?
813-405-7922.
And all you listeners out there, do not forget to download the iHeartRadio app for free and listen to us every single week. This is the raw and the real of real estate, and we'll be back after the break. Thank you.
Biggest win, I think, with the dual path and having these two models is that now we become a brokerage for everyone. No matter where you are in your real estate career or what your goals are today, maybe today you're not interested in recruiting or having a team, but then one day you wake up and you are. Well, if you're at the wrong brokerage to do that, you're locked in. Where in our model, we're not holding anyone hostage. We're not tying anyone in. You can move between the different comp plans and have that success and really achieve whatever your definition of success is under one brokerage platform, being LPT.
Welcome back to the LPT Realty All-Stars radio show, where we are talking the raw and real of real estate. Today, I have some phenomenal people with us. We are focusing on investing, construction, buy and hold stuff, a little bit of syndication, some multifamily. And now we're going to talk about the best part is the money. Have you guys seen Jerry Maguire?
Yes.
It's like my favorite show.
Show me the money.
Bryce, show me the money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we needed to have that gun that shoots out the one, Sean, for the show. And just,
The little gold thing.
You hear this stuff on TV all the time, or you see these gurus that are like, come pay $20,000 for my coaching plan and just go buy assets, lock up contracts, and find the money later. So Bryce, let's be serious.
That is not right.
It's like going to college and they give you a book and then nothing that's in the book happens in reality. So it's just not true. So how do we do it? Talk from a syndication standpoint if you want, but just talk from like little guys out there got to start somewhere. How do they do it? And then how did you get into like the big time stuff? Because you're a big dog.
So first and foremost, you gotta be aware of those 3-letter word people. So stay away from the SEC and keep them away from you, which is understanding that if you're raising capital with people who aren't active investors, that you have to get a SEC regulated fund together so that you can be legal and not get arrested for using.
Can you tell me what SEC is? Like, help me out.
Securities and Exchange Commissions. It's basically like how you regulate securities, or a security is if I was to give you $100 and you say you'll give me $10 back at the end of the year and I don't have to do anything. That's what they regulate, to basically say that you're legally allowed to give me $10 for me not doing anything for the $10 besides give you $100.
And how did you set your fund up?
Through general counsel. So I'm a legal administrator at a law firm that focuses in securities and complex structures of raising capital, like DSTs and craziness. But I went through them and we took an approach at looking at the 506C, 506, like Reg A plus offerings. So there's different tiers of how you can raise capital. And I thought it was pretty cool to understand all of them. So we went through all of them and I picked which one worked best.
And so basically when you first started that, what was your thought process? Like, what was the end game? I always talk to like my agents and my team about, we have a start and a finish. So we have all of like the hurdles and how we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And so what was your goal? Your goal was to create this to accomplish what?
To lend out money. So my main thing is finances. I'm the private money lending guy. So I know that, you know, hard money and private money is very good returns with easy entries. So I wanted to raise capital to invest into developments and private capital raising. So we wanted to focus on something to where we can get your more accredited investors, which is the 506C Reg D or Reg 506C Reg D offering with accredited investors only, starting at 100,000, so that we wouldn't really be dealing with the people who have like maybe 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, which don't.
So when you say accredited, right? So like, who is your ideal client? Like if someone said, I want to invest in real estate, show me the money, Bryce. Who's that guy?
I would want someone at least making $200,000 a year or $1 million in assets who understands the risk and the reward of an investment.
Okay. So if they want to contact you, how do they contact you?
They would contact me via text at 727-251-9571.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Bryce. And since you're the $1 million man, Sean, how does somebody that isn't in that bracket of seasoned, accredited, all the above, what do they do to get money? And how would they utilize you to invest in real estate?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Loaded. Boom, 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 boom. Shots fired.
Well, let me break that
drill.
down, because I get these questions from Betsy quite often. Let's see.
And your answer better be perfect, Sean.
Exactly. If not, I'm in trouble. Just to piggyback off of what Bryce is saying, the money really is a very important part of the investment game, and understanding, you know, how much things cost and, you know, knowing where to get it. I mean, I look at it kind of this way, you know, you have to know how much it's going to cost, how much your return's going to be, where all those dollar figures fall in order to make an informed decision. Okay. And the thing that we do on our team also is to make sure that people are prepared to make these decisions, because they're all vetted and they're pre-approved and they've got money sources ready to go, so that we're not basically like, you know, shopping, you know, for a Lamborghini on the Honda lot. You know what I mean? You've got to
but
understand.
back up to that. How do they do that? Like, talk about the step one. If someone calls you up and says, I want to invest in real estate, you need a pre-approval or you need to show cash. So where would they go, or what would they do? Or would you hold their hand through the process of getting pre-approved, finding capital? Like, explain that part.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's also part of the journey as well. When you do make that connection with them, you know, they obviously have to have the funds to be able to do it, or have to have the pre-approval. We have a group of select lenders that we have on our team that we actually run them through the vetting and the pre-approval process if they're going to do a financing piece. If they do have capital, then we're able to, we ask that they provide proof of funds for these types of assets. And again, have they thought about the budget? Have they thought about their outcome? What are their returns? I mean, we do a lot of listening and a lot of, active questions, but we actually connect them with the people that can make it happen.
So if someone does want to invest in real estate, they can call you at what number?
My direct line is 386-848-7241.
And step one for like a new non-seasoned investor would be, hey, Sean, give me some options for capital. Tell me what this process looks like. I either want to be hands-on or hands-off. I either want something that I totally am going to change and make it my own, like the Lincoln Logs, and then I'm going to call Brenda and we're going to build this bad boy out. Or I want to buy something that's ready to go, turnkey, hands-off. Here's what it is. And then you're going to basically look at risk versus rate of return.
Correct.
And what fits their...
I'm going to do a lot of listing. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to find out what their specific niche is and what their goal is. And then we're going to backtrack into the action steps to make that happen. Everything from the asset to the people that are involved to the money that it takes to make it happen.
And then what about the scary stuff? Like, so I'm buying an apartment and I don't know how to manage. I don't know anything about insurance. I don't know anything about that jam. So like, are you full service?
Absolutely. You're going to find there's a lot more scary stuff in this field as you go. But the one thing that we do is we address all of those pain points. We are a one-stop shop. We have everything, from attorneys to contractors to lenders to property management, high-level investors, entry-level investors. We like to cater to basically everybody, ensuring that they make sound and informed decisions.
So in this process, Bryce, you're the $1 million man and you're, lending to the big guys. You're putting together these development deals. You're playing with your Lincoln Law. Mm-hmm. And Sean, you are taking first-time and seasoned investors, kind of walking them through that process. You may be able to connect a seasoned investor to someone like Bryce.
Correct.
And that's when you call Bryce and you do the Jerry Maguire show me the money move. Mm-hmm. And then while these things are getting built and put together, we have Brenda.
Yes, you do. Working in the background, kind of like pulling strings and doing those kinds of things. I think the one thing that we have to just loop back to is so important when you said making sure that on the front end you understand what kind of an investor you're going to be so that when it's important you don't tank, right? That's everything in real estate. And I've said it for years. I know a lot of people have. You make money when you buy a property, not when you sell it. So if you're smart on the front and you pay attention to your numbers on the front, that's where you make your money. So that's your money.
Brenda, it's business in the front, party in the back.
Business in the front.
The mullet of real estate.
So we're business in the front, and when we sell it and you get that wire, it's party in the back.
You couldn't have said it better. I swear it's perfect. But, once you have that understanding and now you're working, now I see in my mind's eye as a contractor, all right, this is going down. So now I start looking for code violations. I start looking for, are you in an architectural historic district? Are there limitations? Are you in a fly zone? Are there things according to the Florida Building Code that will affect the geographical area that you're doing your project in? Those are things that your GC should be able to help you with along the way, because you can't expect one person to know all things about all things, right? I'm good at one thing and he's probably good at 2 or 3 more things, and so on and so forth. But it's the sum of those parts that get the job done. You can't do it without each other. So work together. Make sure that you're collaborative in your efforts and that you're talking to each of those groups of people. If I throw a flag out and I go, hey guys, we have a problem here. There's a stormwater project that's coming up within the city of Tampa. That sort of thing. That's when your GC really starts to dovetail your money.
And I really appreciate everything that all of you guys have said. Again, we talked in the beginning about not being in competition. I mean, we have 3 licensed realtors sitting here. We have an investor. We have a GC. So what I hear you all saying is be the catalyst and connector and work together to do what's best for the client. Mm-hmm. And that's on the lending side. That's on the investing side. That's on the construction side. So real quick, Mr. Bryce Bush, your phone number if anyone wants to call you.
727-251-9571.
And Sean, I think we hit you earlier. So Brenda, what's your number?
813-405-7922.
Download the iHeartRadio app. We will be back after the break. Do not forget, this is a free app. Listen to the raw and the real of the real estate, and we will be back. Thanks. Welcome back to the LPT Realty Radio Show. I am your host, Betsy Tinervin with Tampa Bay Investments, and I have Bryce and Sean and Brenda all here discussing construction, investing, how to get money, where to put your money, why you should do certain things, how not to get in trouble. I want to do something really cool today because I think that when you vet people out live and you ask the right questions, it's super important. So, Bryce, you are going to act like you are interviewing Miss Brenda to be the licensed GC on your job. Ooh. And you get 3 questions. So if you have to ask a GC 3 questions to make sure that they are the right fit for your project, what are those 3 questions? Ready, set, go.
When was the last time you started your last project? Or when did you start your last project?
Well, I have multiple size projects. So if you said house, I would say a week ago. If you said a fence, I would say probably this afternoon. If you said multi-tenant, 6 months ago.
She's hired.
Okay. So question number 2.
Realistically, do you have your license and insurance?
Yes. One of the things the state requires for me to maintain my license is to be fully bonded. That means performance bonds, sureties, and a $2 million insurance policy, $1 million per incident.
Okay. And could you handle something on the caliber of 3 houses?
Oh, most definitely.
At a time?
I probably have more than that going now.
Thank you.
Okay, so what did he forget? If you had to pick top 3 questions to ask a GC, Brenda,
I would say.
Wait, did Bryce get an F, an A, a B?
I'm going to give him the B because I don't want to hurt his feelings, but it's definitely a B, solid
Minus.
B in the middle, not a minus. Well, you have to know from a contractor. First of all, have they ever been in trouble? Has their license ever been suspended or revoked? Are they carrying the proper amount of insurance? That was certainly one of them. And then can you give me a solid contract? Can you give me lien waivers when that work has been done? There are some other things that need to happen to make sure that money comes back to you. So it's cool that I'm licensed, but I could be the guy that's getting reported every 2 weeks.
How would someone find that out?
You would go to the Construction Industry Licensing Board, CILB.com. You could also go to myfloridalicense.gov and check for any kinds of violations. You could also go to the Better Business Bureau. If I'm a licensed GC, I'm certainly going to show up as a company at the BBB, Dun & Bradstreet, any of those, Paycor. I'm going to be everywhere. So all of those places are communicating with each other because of the World Wide Web, and you're going to find that information out pretty quickly if you're looking.
So basically what I hear both of you guys saying is, Bryce, we need to ask the questions up front. Brenda, you kind of touched on some great things that people lie. So because that happens, right? When you're vetting a contractor, Bryce, you want to ask the questions, but then you want to verify information, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
Perfect.
Trust but verify for sure.
So it's hard, right, Bryce, to do that on the spot?
Oh, it's phenomenally hard. I actually don't deal with any of the contractors that we deal with, like in my business model. I don't.
But what happens if
you got a solid B, so that's
that is.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
How about
I'm happy at that.
I would give you a C. I'm just saying.
I would have took it. Like,
So I think that that's really important for all the listeners out there. New Heights Construction, Miss Brenda is phenomenal and fabulous, but I think that she's throwing it out to anyone thinking about investing, developing, looking at having that project management and keeping all the glue together. 1, the interview questions need to be correct. 2, you need to verify the information. And 3, once they are hired and contracts are signed, you need to protect yourself throughout the process by getting lien waivers signed for certain payments. Again, we prefer to do wires, and Zells, and nothing is ever cash or check anymore. So we can track that through our bank account. So if something were to go to court, we can say, hey, whoop, here's where I paid so-and-so, and make sure that person on the contract also matches the person you're paying, because it gets really sketchy with that. So with that being said, I definitely know that Brenda and I are working on a project right now, and we had some subs.
Yep.
And they left.
Yep.
So what do you do? I know, Bryce, you've seen this. Sean, you've seen this. Brenda, you've seen this. What do you do when you're in the middle of the project and subs leave?
Yep.
Right? And then we have to collect lien waivers. We have to do all these things. What do we do?
So that's probably the biggest thing. I'm going to give you 9 quick questions. Some of them will stick, and then you can text me later for the rest of them. License and insurance, we already talked about. Mechanics lien laws are super important. It is the single hardest lien to get away from. So, and a mechanics lien is something that comes from a vendor, maybe an AC guy, plumber, roofer, whatever, building contractor for sure. If they feel that they have not been paid what you've contractually agreed to, they will lien that property, which will create a cloud on your title. So you might get away with something in the short term, but long term, you're not going to be able to sell the house without clearing that condition, which is a huge deal. The other part of that is getting an accurate estimate. And if the estimate is based on our ever fluctuating construction costs, which is certainly happening right now, there have to be contingencies. There have to be some good faith considerations and assurances that are given to you by those subs. For instance, in the case of the project that Becky and I are referring to, she asked...
I might be Becky with the good hair, but it's Betsy.
Yeah, did I say Becky? Betsy with the gray hair. Betsy with the gray hair asked for, assurances and lien waivers on a project that's been going on now for almost a year. If you don't get those things pretty quickly, and I would say within 30 days, you have every right in the world to ask for assurances. And that should go by way of certified letter. These are the things I requested on this date. I've still not received them, because he who takes the best notes wins, right? So say, for instance, this guy does put a mechanic's lien on you. You have an incredible paper trail that he would have a hard time standing up to based on what you've requested as assurances.
Well, you guys aren't going to get all the goods from Miss Brenda. She gave you 1 through 3. Yeah. If you want 3 through 7, which gives you 10 critical things, then you have to contact her directly at what number, Miss Brenda?
813-405-7922.
And that's New Heights Construction. Now, let's wrap it up with some good real estate. We have a couple minutes left before we go to break. So I think the coolest part about being a realtor, and then obviously I'm working on my CCIM as well, is that we are like the catalyst and connector. We are the wheel. We are the whole wheel that holds all the spokes together. When the spokes fall off, 1, we get blamed, but 2, we pick it up and put it back together. So Sean, from the lending to the construction to placing a whole deal in one big, what we call a Google Drive folder, but that's in reality. But what we're doing in that folder is we're laying out the whole front to back. And basically, what is that like for you, putting all the vendors, vetting them all out, getting the project together, mapping out that plan? What's that like? Why is it important?
Well, if you don't have a map, if you don't have a destination, then all roads will get you there. So it's important for us as...
you can't use Google, Sean?
Wow.
What's that?
You can't use Google?
I can use Google. You often tell us to call Dr. Google all the time.
I know, but I'm just saying, you said, what was the map quote you just used? I like that.
Flew off my head.
It was good.
If you don't have a destination, then all roads will get you there.
Nice.
Okay,
I love that. That was like a goosebump moment.
My wife
That was
always
one of
gets
those
on me
little
about using
morsels.
these metaphors, and I think they're relevant, but she always tells me it's kind of goofy. But again, to that point, to answer your question, you as a real estate professional and as an investor, you have to understand and having been there, understand where the pain points are, and you have to have a plan. You have to have a good network of people that you can rely on and know that when stuff does inevitably hit the fan, you can pick up the phone and call and things will get back on track. Okay, so you have to have the right lenders, you have to have the right subs, you have to have the right contract, you have to have the right legal, all that stuff to make that happen. So
do you vet them out for your clients?
Absolutely. We vetted them out through past clients, and we have a stable of 3 or 4. I like to provide options for my clients. That way, they have they make the decision, not me. I'll give them 3 people that I think are the best and have qualified, and I vetted them all the way through. Allow them to make the decision so that they own that. And I think that that's really important. When they own their decisions, it takes the weight off of me if things go sideways. However, when they do go sideways, it's my job to get them back on track.
And I appreciate everybody that was listening to the show today. I definitely want you to use all these people for resources. I think that Bryce has done phenomenal things in the community. He's done basically from the bottom. Dude, Bryce started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Like completely.
Like 100. So basically with Bryce, if you want to start syndications, raise money, borrow money, tell him to show you the money, all of the above. And then just to pick his brain, I know he has the biggest heart and an even better mind. So Bryce, where would they contact you at for that?
727-251-9571 and text. And if it's like something they need help with, Saturdays are my volunteer hours.
Okay, perfect. Sean, I love you to death. We've done business together forever. I think you're a phenomenal real estate agent. And if anyone needs anybody to put together deals, analyze deals, even if you're a local realtor and you want to talk investments with Sean, I know that he's willing to do that. So make sure that you reach out to him. And Sean, if someone wants to communicate with you, Mr. Sean Weatherington with Tampa Bay Investments, how would they get in contact with you?
You can call me at 386-848-7241.
And Miss Brenda, I just love you to pieces. I'm so glad that we have been working together for all these years. I am super excited you're with LPT.
I am too.
Because I think you're going to crush the whole game.
I'm doing it.
And if anyone out there wants to know, hey, can I add value to my property by adding this addition? I'm going to buy this investment. Here's my construction. Brenda can not only help you as a GC, but then she can also list your home. So how would they get a hold of you, Miss Brenda?
That would be 813-405-7922.
And we will see you on the next show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Raw and Real of Real Estate podcast, powered by LPT Realty, Real Estate Reimagined. We hope this episode motivated and inspired you. And don't forget to rate and review us. Thanks again for listening to the Raw and Real of Real Estate podcast with Betsy Tinnervin.